Welcome back to Viewpoint. Monsignor Miles is to be ordained as Archbishop here in Gibraltar.
Very close friendship, joined at the hip since the very, very early years, maybe at 2 or 3 years old. We were next door neighbours, and happy kid, popular. He was quite a rascal as well, despite his saint-like persona these days. But he was a very popular person, very happy child, very theatrical as well. He was musical. We used to put up concerts and charge, obviously. He would sing It Never Rains in California in English and American, and we charged an extra 5p for that. I was always out with my siblings, the neighborhood kids, and he was always there. And we always moved around from sandpits, tennis club, and back and forth. I don't really know how our parents kept tabs of us in those days. There were no phones or anything like that. So we spent a lot of time outdoors, and wonderful childhood, wonderful.
It is an extremely proud moment. We're all very proud of my little brother. He's the youngest of the lot. But I've watched Mark over the years, and he's been so committed. He's worked so hard. He's good. He's a good person, and he practices what he preaches. So he really, really deserves this. He's worked hard for it. And one thing I'd like to add, that what I've seen in Mark is that he always wants to do God's will above everything else. In his own words, he wants it to be pleasing to God. So I don't believe it's an ambitious thing that he's done. It's just happened naturally.
Okay, I met Mark, I believe it was during our middle school years. Became a close friend then, and it carried on from there on. I think it bonded more in comprehensive. Because there were only 2 of us doing music at the time, there may have been a third, I can't remember, there was just 2 of us in our year doing music. They couldn't fit the timetable in right. So ironically enough, there was a clash with religious education. So we had to miss one religious education lesson to do the music instead, because that took priority. Because of that, we used to avoid the second lesson and go to the music room instead. And we once got into trouble for, of all things, skiving religious education. Who would have thought? Who would have ever thought that Mark would go in that direction in the end? And one other thing that Mark was very good at was blurting out the first thing he thought, or rather, blurting out whatever came to his mind without really thinking about it, which got us into the trouble, because when the teacher found us skiving that lesson, whilst I was masterminding the greatest excuse I could think of as to why we were here and how to get out of it, Mark didn't, and blurted out because the music teacher gave us permission. And I remember that RE teacher storming in to the music teacher's office, and then both of them storming back out, and then subsequently we got into that trouble. Mark received, I think, a few kicks under the table from me for almost doing that a few times. So in my mind, one of his greatest achievements, considering now that he's a diplomat for the Vatican, is one, have you learned to shut up until you've thought about what you're going to say? And the irony in that he's doing the very, very course we were avoiding in school.
Mark is an incredibly spiritual person, a very humble person. He's somebody that will really, really go out of his way to help anybody that asks for his help, but particularly with our family. He's incredible. He's just, he's our hero. He's our hero. We all look up to him, we all admire him, we all love him, we all want the best for him, and we're really proud of him.
At the Cathedral of St. Mary the Crowned, the Roman Catholic Bishop of Gibraltar emphasised the importance of the event and the fact that it'll take place on the rock, saying it's an honour not just for the Catholic Church here, but for Gibraltar as a whole.
when Mark informed me that he was going to become a nuncio and therefore he will be ordained an archbishop, that they go together, all right, always. I asked him, what would you prefer? Because I know they have the possibility of getting even the Pope ordaining them archbishop in the Vatican, or they can choose to go to their country of origin. Mostly they choose the country of origin. And Mark said, I prefer to come to Gibraltar because it's an honor for Gibraltar. It's not my honor, it's everybody's honor. And like that, everybody will live it. And obviously, I accepted immediately that he comes here, knowing that it will mean a lot of work, not necessarily for me, but for people who are organizing these things. You know? It will mean a lot of money, we have to say it also. But at the same time, it's an occasion which we will not see again in our lifetime, and probably in the lifetime of the next generation, you know, because it's so exceptional to have an archbishop ordained, not just ordained, but ordained by the top people in the church. That's what it is.
I was going to say some important people coming to the Rock.
Very important. They are the most important in the church apart from the Pope. You know, you have Cardinal Parolin. He is the Secretary of State in the Vatican. He's in the Secretary, which means he's like the foreign minister in the Vatican. He deals with all countries. There are 3 sections in the Secretariat of State, and he governs them. There are different sections. And he also, in a way, has contact with all the other congregations or dicasteries, as they are called now. And he really is the number 2 in the Vatican, let's put it that way. Then we have Cardinal Tagle. I met Tagle when I went to Rome there was a meeting about child abuse. Unfortunately, we spent a weekend. He was in my group. And he gave a talk, and he really is young. He's not that old. He became a cardinal at a very young age. He was in the Philippines, and now he is the prefect. Prefect means the head, no? Of the Propaganda Fide, which is the countries who are a bit underdeveloped, let's put it that way, no, who need help. And he is the head of Caritas. Caritas is a very big dicastery in the church to help people, you know. So he's the head of 2 dicasteries. And I don't know whether I should say this, but he and Parolin both are mentioned as the next pope. So you know the importance of this.
I don't want to steal the thunder from Mark, but it must be very exciting for you as well to be one of the 3 who will be ordaining Mark.
Well, I thank Mark for letting me have it, although generally the bishop of the place will take place, will take part in the thing. Obviously, I thank Mark for it. Being with Parolin, who is the consecrator, he is the one who does everything. Who stand by, that's all, you know. And Roach, I don't know much, although I met him in the bishops' conference in England, but he was a bishop in England, then he transferred to the section of the liturgy in Rome. He is a personal friend, that's why he is doing the other co-consecrator. I thought Tagle will be the co-consecrator actually, because he is much senior, no? But obviously that's up to Mark to decide who to be there. We have also the nuncio, who had every right as our nuncio to be a co-consecrator, because he's quite senior, obviously, too, you know.
But it's actually, I hadn't thought of that, it's actually quite nice. So you're having the top representative of Rome, of the Vatican, you're having a friend, a personal friend, and you're having the top representative of the Catholic Church from his hometown. Yeah,
that's how it is. But as I said, you know, if you go by seniority and by importance, it wouldn't have been like that. I would be the last. Let's put it that way.
You've mentioned the pandemic. One of the other things that it has done is put very significant pressure on finances. That is true in Gibraltar, and it is true of the Vatican. And I know that the Pope has reduced the salaries of some of the cardinals, and,
Yes.
In order to save the jobs of lower paid workers within the institution.
That's right, that's right. And one of the things I'm very happy about is, of course, priests, bishops, cardinals, they've had that reduced, and I'm pleased in the sense that the families, untouchable, the families that work in the Vatican, they've not been reduced in any way, and I don't think they will be. I think that's the intention of the Holy See and the intention of the Holy Father. So we have to be realistic about that, and he may have to make more measures as well. And I just say bring it on, in the sense that we'd be happy to make as many sacrifices as we can to make sure that those who have children that work in the Vatican don't suffer in any way. And I've never been for want in the church, even when times have been a little bit more difficult, but it's actually a joy to see that kind of sensitivity to the many families that work there. Yeah.
What kind of a lifestyle does one lead? How would you characterize it?
Working
You
for the Holy
travel
See,
a lot for
yes,
starters.
Yes, we travel a lot, and we have a very, I suppose, we live in a nunciature. It's a house and an embassy together, and it's a very fixed timetable, like a monastery, in the sense that has its own rule of life: what time you get up, what time you pray, what time you work. It's all quite structured, but within that we have to allow a lot of room, especially in the African countries, to make sure that the nunciature is seen as a house that has its door open for people. So if priests want to come, people want to come and talk about their problems. It's probably even a greater sensitivity in these countries. That's the image I get, and to make sure that people always feel welcome. That's crucial. Then the nuncio spends a lot of time travelling, as you say. He's got to visit the bishops, he's got to visit the diocese, and I've just seen some of those clips on YouTube, and I think I'm going to learn a lot about African dance and African music. Alive, because it reminded me of the Caribbean, actually, when I was in the Dominican Republic many years ago. Same kind of tunes and rhythms, people are alive, but very respectful during the Mass. But not to steer away from the point, I think we have a very structured lifestyle, and we try not to overdo it, even if people are generous with us. We live off what we need, and the surplus, we try to be part of that message of solidarity that Pope Francis is saying, so that we do share with people in need, and there are many who are in need in both of those countries. Yeah.
Brings us back to Gibraltar, perhaps, from I'm sure extremely interested, but perhaps somewhat detached perspective. What do you think the main challenges for the Roman Catholic Church in Gibraltar are going to be for 2021 and beyond?
That's a good question. I think they're similar to many areas of the world. The COVID pandemic has taught us all, I think, of the things that are essentially important in our life, and one of them is, people have been left alone, sadly, to die. People have not had access to human contact. On the downside, there have been many, many positive things that we've seen of how people have reached out, incredible health care. Just looking, I followed daily what the Chief Minister was saying, what ministers were saying, and what health officials were saying, and I was very impressed. It was very touching to see how much was done for the community, with clarity, with direction. But if I'm honest, what I wouldn't want to see is that what we've valued as essential in this time, when we all talk about getting back to normal, that we don't forget what is absolutely essential, that we mustn't be on our own. We mustn't, men and women are to flourish as a community together, to help each other, to love each other, and to feel loved, to feel that you're not alone. And so I think one of the challenges for the church is, put very simply, we've got to do a better job at making sure that the God who we preach, the God who we live by, we make people feel that that God is closer to them, that God loves them and God loves us. And there's room for improvement for every religious institution, and the church no less, in the world. In Gibraltar I see incredible signs of hard-working priests, hard-working lay people in the church, and again that word, that needs to be encouraged and fostered. There is, sadly I think, when we lose sight of what's essential, I think sometimes God gets put on the back burner, and even religion, institutionalized religion. And what I wouldn't want to see is a society where, when we talk about secular, that it regards religion and God as a private thing that should be kept into the drawer. Pope Benedict was wonderful at this. He said, no, we also have a voice, we also have something we want to contribute. Again, not to enforce, not to superimpose, and perhaps in the past that was done and that was wrong. So where I see the church moving forward in the world and also in Gibraltar is just to encourage all the good things that are happening, but to increase that sense, that conviction that we are deeply loved by God, and that deeply loving each other is something that's not an additional extra. This time of COVID has shown us we've really got to reach out to each other all the time, even when things hopefully get back to complete normal around the world. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think that you spoke in the earlier part of that answer about the particular challenges posed by loneliness and grief, and I'm sure that the church wants to play a big role in sort of healing those wounds.
Yes, it's been awful to see the amount of hurt that I've witnessed from a distance here in Gibraltar when I was in Washington DC, and the shock of the loss. But with that we've seen also lovely gestures of reaching out to people in need, and as I say, I think we should look forward to see how we don't lose the lessons that we've learnt and we're learning. In times of prosperity, sometimes I think we can forget that, and Gibraltar generally is prosperous, and I think we should always see where the real prosperity lies, which is this not feeling alone, always feeling loved. It's amazing how people in a crowd with lots of activities and a seemingly full life can feel very lonely. Perhaps this should help us to see how a person who appears to be very full and very happy might be on such a level of loneliness that's even thinking of perhaps taking their life. How this helps us to be more aware, this experience, to be more sensitive to people around us, I would say. Yeah.
Before I ask you one final question about the events this weekend, for the Roman Catholic Church worldwide, are some of the challenges, the rise of nationalism and racism that perhaps were already there but have been accentuated or in some cases fueled by the pandemic. Is there a role for the Holy See to play there?
Well, what I would say is perhaps just moving to your first example of when you mentioned nationalism, I think it's St. Thomas Aquinas that said that nationalism is a virtue when it's properly understood, so that, you know, we're proud of our traditions, we're proud of what's unique to our own nation, our own country, but it's not a nationalism as an absolute in the sense that we exclude sensitivity to other nations, to other cultures, to other needs. And I think what Pope Francis is really pushing in his indomitable way is we're all in this together. Some might be more fortunate than others, but that can change tomorrow. The COVID crisis shows that we can be here today and gone tomorrow. It's same on many different aspects in life, and that's why we need to look out for each other. So the challenge for the Holy See, the challenge for the Church and for society as a whole is to keep fostering that sense of solidarity and fraternity, that we really are members of each other's community, in a sense, that we're members of the wider human family. And I know those sound like words, and they are words, but to try and put that into practice, that I think is one of the challenges.
Well, it's been a roller coaster, but at the same time, it's the first time that you've been able to interview me 3, 4 or 5 days before. You know, usually it's always been on the day, the morning before. Because we've been using this wonderful hall, which we've been able to have for a number of days prior to the Mass. As you can see behind us, the altar is already practically set up, the chairs are all done, all things which would have done 24 hours or 48 hours before. So in that respect, it's been very relaxed. The pressure has been that, I mean, a lot of people will see a lot of empty spaces, but that is because of COVID. I mean, these are premises you could fit almost twice what we have fitted. But again, we still have to be very cautious.
It's an immense organisational thing, because I've been involved in the organisation and I've seen, I'm so proud of our community, because so many volunteers come together to make it happen. It really is impressive. I feel it's like a big family, bring it all together. And I'm nervous for Mark for the big day, obviously, but he'll be fine, I have no doubt.
It's been something which we've enjoyed very much. We've done it with so much excitement, really, for Archbishop-elect Mark and for the whole diocese. It's something that doesn't happen every day, so it's had its headaches, but with a lot of love and joy, really, to be able to do this.
Yeah, very proud of his achievements, extremely proud. I think he's an inspiration to Gibraltar generally, and I think we should be very proud as a community of his achievements.
Father Mark, as we've always known him, is a son of Gibraltar. He's a Gibraltarian, and he is a priest of the diocese. In other cases, with Archbishop Amigo and Archbishop Bowen, they were born in Gibraltar, they were Gibraltarian, but they went to England very early on in their life, and that's where they became priests. But this is someone who has been born in Gibraltar and is a priest of Gibraltar right through his diplomatic career. Now he obviously ceases to be part of the clergy of Gibraltar as an archbishop, and but for us, obviously, this is a historic moment, a unique moment, and that's why it's important for not only the church but for a son of Gibraltar, of our rock.
Studying for priesthood, to become a priest, Catholic priest.
Right. When did you sort of feel the call, so to speak?
Well, it was during university. I studied 3 years music at university, and towards the end of that I was very interested in the idea.
I remember when Mark told me he was going to become a priest. I remember sitting in my granny's house in Humphreys with Mark. He'd just come back he'd been on a trip to the Dominican Republic, I remember, and he said it was freezing even though it was a summer's day, and he was sitting completely covered up on the sofa with a duvet, and he told me he was going to become a priest. And the way he told me, the way he said it to me, I could see that he really, really meant it. He'd had a calling, and to this day, he just is somebody who really, really, really has a divine connection with God. When you talk to him about things, you know, people always stuff from the Bible and stories and about God and accounts of God, and people raise issues like how can God allow poverty, and the way he answers those questions and the way that he explains them shows a real belief and understanding of God and the Christian faith. You can see he's really thought about it. It's not just rehearsed answers that people give you. He really believes it. He's spent hours and hours reading and thinking, and he really, really believes in it. And that's a beautiful thing, that belief.
He married me. I'm gonna correct that. Okay, he married me to my wife. I used that joke in my speech. He's baptized my first son. We met him in Rome, and he showed us around. We've come back a long way. And what he's achieved is really impressive, and nobody would have, I'd never have ever dreamt that he'd be where he is now from school. It's absolutely incredible what he has achieved, and I think we're all very proud of what he's done, and even amongst our own friends and crowds who all know him well. I mean, the joke going around is, so when's he going to become Pope? Yeah, we want to one day, 20 years time, go to Rome to visit our friend the Pope. So keep going, Mark.
We've always kept in touch. There have been periods when he's been busy and we haven't been forthcoming in meeting as much, but with his time in the Vatican, we tend to meet more. I went to Italy several times, Hungary when he was based in Hungary as well. So yeah, we've tried always to keep in touch, and he always came to see his family, and obviously we are like family, we're brothers. As my mum and his mum used to say, brothers of a different mother. But we've been joined at the hip ever since, and the friendship continues in a different dynamic, obviously. His world is very different to my world and our world, but very inspiring. Yeah, very happy with everything that he's achieved here, absolutely.
And he just has a spiritual energy. When you see Mark, it's just calming. He's just so calm, and you just take away your problems in a second. You spend 5 minutes with Mark, I tell you probably to confess whatever you've done wrong or what you're talking to him about, and then he'll talk to you on a human level, and it just makes your problems go away. He just has this spiritual energy that is incredible.
I think it's going to be a huge challenge. I mean, it's his first time as a nuncio, and that in itself, any new job is a challenge, but this is mega. You know, he's going to be dealing with politicians, bishops, in a language that he's not used to speaking, and he'll have to develop it when he's there. But Mark will be a good nuncio. He works very hard. In fact, I would say Mark works too hard, and my advice as a brother would be a good nuncio, but not too good a nuncio, because we don't want him burning out. He'll be a great success, I'm sure.
I suppose that Gibraltar was on the ecclesiastical map in most people's, because with Father Mark in the Vatican, he, being such a lovely person, really, you know, so communicative, and as somebody said when he went to America with the Pope to translate, you know, who is that cute priest? And they got to know who that cute priest is from Gibraltar, sort of, you know.
There was an article of Mark photobombing the Pope and Obama and Trump.
Yeah. So, you know, Mark being a local priest, and he never hid that, sort of, you know, he never went to being a British priest, if you want. So Gibraltar got exposure. Being such a small place, you know, that's good. So he will be in many other places, Mark, because in the diplomatic service of the Vatican, you may be 4 years and then you change. So I expect him in his career as a diplomat now, as a nuncio, to visit at least 5 countries, to be a nuncio in 5 countries. So that's a lot of visits and a lot of work he will have, but also a lot of Gibraltar getting to be known. Just put it that way, you know.
I'll just ask you one final question. What will it mean to you to have your episcopal ordination here in Gibraltar?
The world, in the sense that I had the choice, and I had the choice of doing it in Rome. It would have given much less headaches to the diocese. They say they're doing it joyfully, and they are, but I'm seeing what they're doing and the work that's involved. And I'm very appreciative to all sectors, you know, and the government has provided support, logistical support. I'm so grateful, but I'm mindful I've caused headaches. But to answer the question, I prefer it to be here because it's not just about me. I don't consider myself to be falsely humble when I say this is about Gibraltar. It's an event from the diocese where I grew up in, a community which I grew up in. So I think it's for everyone. So the choice was natural for me to want to have it here. And the superiors actually said, Mark, that's the right answer. That's the right answer. That's good for anything which strengthens the life of the local church and morale in any way. That's a good thing. So that was part of my inspiration of wanting to have it here. And I'm looking forward to it very much, Jonathan.
Well, we wish you every success for this weekend and also for your time in Western Africa.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thank you to all your viewers. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mark Miles will be the first Archbishop to come from the active clergy in the Gibraltar Diocese, and the first Gibraltarian ever to hold the rank of nuncio, making it a memorable day for him, his family, the Catholic Church in Gibraltar, and his many friends here. GBC Television will broadcast Sunday's event live at 4:30 p.m.